last time I'm going to say this, I promise. As a reminder, everybody is on mute. All of the attendees are on mute so that we can have a good, clear audio from our presenter, Chris. Chris Myers is with Reach. They're out of the Memphis area, and they've got a pretty cool platform he's putting together, and just wanted to put this out there for people. So with that, Chris, I'll turn it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Dustin, and thank you everyone for joining the call today. Before I get started, one quick little shout out to your host here. Interesting how Dustin and I met about a year ago with this concept. Originally, it was called Life Plan, and I'm in the Memphis area, and of course, Dustin there in Indiana. This gentleman was so cool. We had never met before, but he drove 280 miles to meet me in a little place in Illinois to talk about this concept. So in the world we're in today, where there's so much craziness and whatnot, there's a dedicated person who loves this community and will do anything that he can to help facilitate technology and resources. And shout out to you, Dustin, for that 1 year, almost 1 year time, about a year ago. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Chris.
Anyway, so this, I'm sorry I can't join you guys via an actual live presentation relative to seeing me, but this is a photo of me. I spent years in the world of corporate marketing here in the Memphis area, the McDonald's, FedEx, Thomas & Betts. Right now, I'm actually a strategic marketing consultant with a little company called McNutt Consulting. I also do some things on my own and relative to startups, et cetera. I spent some time with University of Memphis as an adjunct marketing professor, and I'm still doing that today, 25 years later. I've held some board positions in various, some of these acronyms may not mean anything to you, but they're local special needs organizations here in the Memphis area. I'm a father of four, as Justin and I were just talking about. I've got a very special son, Taylor, who's 28 and autistic, functions at about a 2-year-old level with no speech. I am the advocate and creator of this concept called Reach, previously called Life Plan. I'll explain that in just a minute. And also, when I'm not sleeping, which doesn't happen a lot these days, I'm a creator of some books. I wrote a book about my relationship with my son called Taylor's Way. I'm also writing some other things, so I enjoy lots of things. So some of the challenges, at least as it relates here in the Memphis area and certainly across the nation, in my part of the U.S., there are about 130,000 people who have some form of special needs, from dyslexia all the way to autism. Across my state here in Tennessee, it's about 1 million plus. And as I'm sure you all know, across the U.S., it's about 60 million. So those numbers are increasing. It's about 1 in every 5 persons here in the U.S. has some form of disability. By many people's estimates, the rate of autism is now about 1 in 59. I hear that number is actually dipping below 1 in 50. When my son was diagnosed, for example, in 1992, that number was 1 in 2,500. So obviously the numbers are increasing, and that's a little bit scary. I don't know what state you all live in, but in my state, resources are strapped. Budgets are really tight for both people and money. Allocations to various challenges is often very fragmented. And honestly, the problem for a lot of people as a parent advocate is no one seems to know really the right path to go. The top priority for every level of government is not what I'm going to describe to you today. They have other issues, other things they're worried about, and that too is also a challenge. But from a parent's point of view, and agencies and advocates are out there, everybody's working hard to try to find that solution. What is the right solution? I would suggest that it's not just one solution, but what I'm going to show you today is just an idea that came from the world of research and talking to a lot of folks. So what's the problem? Although we're talking about technology, technology itself is not the solution to every problem as it relates to the special needs community. I think Dustin would agree with that. Parents hear these changing priorities at the federal and state level, but there's a lack of consistency of how that's being communicated. Even though Google, I think we all probably use Google every day. I probably use it way too many times to find out answers to all kinds of questions. Those types of search engines alone also are not the answer. So parents really are stressed. That leads to, unfortunately, some high rates of separation or even divorce. And so this is a very positive presentation, but I wanted to paint the picture of you know, the world that we're in today for those 60 million is very, very fragmented, a lot of challenges, a lot of issues, but there hopefully are some things on the horizon that will help address the needs. World, I believe that life is a continuum of people's needs and resources, et cetera. And when my son was diagnosed at his 1 year well baby check now 27 years ago, his life, like all of us, has a continuum of events and situations that impact both positively and regrettably negatively. If you could chart what those resources would need and needs would be along that continuum, I always thought that would be helpful from a parent's point of view. That way you could plan ahead. So what REACH is basically, it's a real-time information clearinghouse platform that when it's fully implemented will allow all these wonderful folks to have impact on that person's life to help them make good decisions from regular data feeds and a customized personal profile of preferences, interests, et cetera. It'll be password protected, it'll be encrypted. We're very focused on HIPAA, you know, and making sure that we don't violate any data needs or specific privacy concerns. Trust me, we've done our homework to make sure that this is right from a communication standpoint, from a legal standpoint, from the parent's point of view, and from the actual individual himself or herself. Now you may ask, well, what is REACH? REACH actually stands for resources, education, advocacy, community, and health. So it's kind of a mouthful, so that's why we're calling it REACH. I don't think I could just blurt out those words and it would mean a lot, but that's why we're thinking about it. And we're working on a logo and some other things along the way. But anyway, that's where the name comes from. So how do we get there real quickly? So the history is I did some quantitative research with a professor in social work at the University of Memphis here in support of all these wonderful agencies and across the state. About 200 people completed a survey. You can see the numbers are very, very helpful and very good. 81% really liked the concept and valued it, and about 2/3 were willing to actually pay someone to help them create a plan. So a plan would be on a quarterly basis or an annual basis, help me understand what's out there for my son or daughter or my grandson. You know, what are the resources? Help me organize it in a way that makes sense to me as a caregiver or a parent or an advocate. That's what is meant by the plan. So several years ago, I got grant funding for a pilot program. A local foundation, from a local foundation, a local group was the project manager. I was the marketing lead. We chose a platform. Unfortunately, I wish I had met Dustin a few years ago. You know, he probably would have guided me in a different direction. But unfortunately, the platform we chose was not viable, and I didn't need to pursue some other options. And then this is where we are today. And again, in the midst of all this, Dustin and I met each other, and he challenged me in a lot of new and interesting and different ways, which I'm very appreciative of today, as well as the time here on this call. But where I am today is I have two partners. There's an organization called Dreamscape Foundation. It's based in Naples, Florida. The gentleman, his name is Joseph Sawani. Interesting to him, he actually is visually impaired. While he's not completely blind, he has some challenges from a vision standpoint, but he's very passionate about raising money and doing technology-related types of projects that will help not only the people that he connects with, but also the millions of others who have special needs. So he's very passionate about it. And then we did a selection process and found a group out of New Delhi, India, actually called ISK Pro. They're an IT consulting firm that works with hundreds of clients here in the U.S. and abroad. They do projects in the cloud, e-commerce, websites, and apps. And there's their website information. So you can see what the foundation's goals are. From ISK Pro's goals really are basically whatever their client needs are relative to designing technology-oriented projects that, again, leverage their experiences and expertise of working in the cloud, e-commerce, and websites. This is a really good project for them. They're really passionate about it because they know that the need is significant. If we do this right, the potential is to launch this not just here in my state and not just in Florida, because that's where Mr. Sawani's based, but across the U.S. And that's our ultimate plan. Here's just a little, the gentleman that I've referenced, just wanting, in case you're interested, is he's the gentleman in the back row with the blue shirt on with a nice young lady with a yellow blouse on his shoulder. As you can tell, he's a millennial. He's probably 28, 29, just a really cool individual. But this is the foundation group. So these next couple slides are just work in progress. The wireframes for this project have already been that I shared with Dreamscape and the folks from ISK Pro. As you can see, it's a simple page where you've got a home and my profile, about us, settings, etc. You know, the intent of this entire effort is provide something in real time that pertains specifically to my son or to those other 60 million here in the U.S. I'll give you an example. My son loves to play with balls. You know, he loves to play with any kind of basketball, baseball, whatever. He loves to play with balls. Let's say there's a basketball camp, you know, east of me in Nashville, Tennessee, in the center of our state, so about 3 hours away. I would get an email, hey, Mr. Myers, we know that Taylor loves to play with balls. Here's a camp in Nashville. It's October 5th and 6th. I'm just making this up, by the way. It costs $79. Click on this link, and it'll take you right to the registration page where you can get them registered. It's an overnight camp. You know, here are the details, et cetera. Boom. Now, could I find that camp on my own? Yeah, maybe at some point. But the beauty about this whole concept is I will get that coming to me when I need it based on my terms and based on what my son's abilities are, his interests, et cetera, not by checking Google 20 times a day. I mean, that's just not going to happen, right? So here's the stats I quoted: 1 in 5 in the U.S. have some sort of disability. You know, again, this will have a home page. Obviously, this is just some basic information here. This will be about specifically about me and my personal interest in any documents. One of the challenges I thought as part of this project would be important to have all that wonderful IEP, all that wonderful data that you have on your special needs child or adult that's captured somewhere within the school system. Well, why can't I have that information readily available to me? If I really need it, why can't I have it available to me? And by laws here in Tennessee, and I suspect it's across the U.S., you should have access to that information. So the point is having one central repository of all that wonderful medical, educational, therapy, behavioral things, all those things would be available to you, contained within this one system. And it'll be password protected and encrypted, as I mentioned. So if you want to go in and get that specific information, you can. Or if if you just want a website, this process will yield basically a website that'll say, hey, you know what, Mr. Myers, there's some programs over there for Taylor, but there are also programs for everybody else. So it'll be a fairly generic, level 1 type of website, which will mean, hey, if Dustin wants to go in and find out some information on what are the programs available in my zip code where I live, he can go and do that without providing all that personalized information. So if you think about it, level 1 is, hey, I just want information. And then level 2 is, I'm going to give you specific information to build a profile so that this system will then be able to send out and disseminate information back to me in that personalized format, if that makes sense. So it's kind of cool concept. Again, there's just a text box. And then here's some other information about, again, if you have some personal interest, there'll be obviously, like a lot of websites today, the intelligence of the Amazons and the Googles of the world, where if you say, hey, I was at a program at the YMCA, for example, last week, then something will pop up about another YMCA or a sister type program in another part of the area that would pertain to the specifics and the profile of what my son is able to do. So if he's able to go to this wheelchair basketball camp as listed here in Greater Naples, Florida, then maybe there's another camp in a sister community right next door. So it's obviously like a lot of sites that'll have that sort of intelligence to go there. So in summary, and again, there's a lot more to be done. In summary, what will be some of the outcomes for us doing this? Well, we'll be able to connect individuals and those caregivers and families with easy to use and hopefully understandable technology. We're going to enhance the social interaction. One of the challenges, and I know Dustin knows this for all his work with this population, is that they don't, there's not a lot of socialization, where it's really hard for people to be socialized with others. So we hope that we'll be able to provide some of those networks and opportunities for the special needs population to connect with each other. We're going to tailor this mechanism to receive that and disseminate that information, again, in real time. The technology is going to be available on PCs, laptops, tablets, but we're also going to put it on smartphones. So I envision that we'll have apps both on your Android, on your Samsung, or it could be on an Apple iPhone, whatever version you have. It'll be available to you, in that customized format. So we're working on that as well. And then we're also hoping to be able to validate and provide some research data back to anyone, frankly, especially the states that would want to know, how have you impacted the quality of life? Have you provided some metrics to help reduce obesity, lethargy, and loneliness? Those are the three terrible things that really impact this population. I've said many times, and I know Dustin's heard this story, my son, again, loves to play ball. I could see him playing, without something like this, playing ball in front of a TV for the rest of his life. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. That's not a quality of life. I mean, he's living, but he's not living a high quality of life. And that's what I hope this will unearth and unlock, is those opportunities for people to connect, to get that information they need to in real time, and be able to make some good decisions about what they need to do for their child. So the next steps that as I mentioned, we're finalizing our wireframes and the data sources, continuing on with development. I wish I had the Reach logo and descriptor to share with you today. I know Dustin provided a little bit of specifics on the descriptor when he sent the notification out about this huddle. There's more to come. And actually on the 27th here in Memphis, I'm hosting a meeting with the 4 key agencies that we're working with to focus on autism, about confirming their involvement, their support, and overall direction. We will be scraping their site. We're not getting into the DNA of the specifics of their actual, their internal site, but their external site that goes and connects with Google and all these other search engines. We'll be scraping those this fall to get the most current information and have a rhythm of delivering that information back into Reach on a daily basis. So every day when Reach is launched, people will have the most current information available to them, again, to just find out about programs and services, or, if they want to build out that specific customized portal and customized profile, we'll be happy to work with them on that as well. And there I am, folks. That's, again, me. This is my email address and my phone number, cell phone number. I don't have a landline. It's just a cell phone number, but I know this is being recorded, and so as you have questions or other things that you want to ask about, or specific timing-wise, I didn't mention the dates on this, but the hope is that this will launch, phase 1 will launch by the end of November of this year, if not sooner. And we'll do, obviously, a lot of A/B testing, a lot of UI and whatnot to make sure that it's ready to go. But the intent is to have it, all the bugs and any other kind of things, worked out by the end of the year. And then my job as the marketing guy is to hit the ground running hard in first quarter of 2020. And we'll be out in Tennessee, and then hopefully as well as Florida. And then I hopefully by sometime in 2020, if not early 2021, we will be nationwide. That's our intent. I thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. A couple questions for you.
Okay.
Well, one, I guess a comment. I need to connect you with a guy's name is Raymond Schmidt. He works for the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities in Ohio.
Okay.
They created, it's called their Community Connections Manager. Similar concept, not exactly like what you're putting together, but I think you guys should definitely have a conversation. If you go to my online tech fest, just go to disabilitycocoon.com, click the online tech fest, and he presented at one of the conferences that we did on it, and it's in there. So another question though for you. It seems like the website, that Reach will have kind of 2 components. One is a site where people can go and just kind of explore and see local resources that might be beneficial to somebody that they're serving or a loved one. So that's kind of one part, is a website where people can go to. The other part is where people can go in and actually create a profile for that individual, outlining their needs, their preferences, their location, and then your platforms, Reach, will customize and push alerts to them. Is that right?
Correct. That's exactly right. And then also, thank you for that, also includes jobs or about just, there'll be a number of different key categories, Dustin, and that will expand, that category list will expand over time. But there'll probably be 8 to 10 major categories where people really need the most specific information on X, Y, or Z. And you're right. Once we have that, then I'll push back out to them. Yep, that's exactly right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how are, it sounded like at the very end, the resources, it sounds like you guys are building in something that is going to go out and scour the web, scrape the web, and find these resources. Is that how you're sourcing all of the local resources for people? Or are you...
Right. Yeah, at least initially, right. At least initially, because the agencies, what we found, at least here in Tennessee, is that the major agencies are the ones that are pushing out content and information to parents and caregivers, et cetera. Or people are just going to the web. But unfortunately for our state, what I hear is that there's not a lot of effort gone to the state disability organization did. So the agencies pretty much have to kind of carry the water on that. So our thought was, let's just pull from wherever that. Now, over time, if the state has information or others have more current information, what we want to be is just that single clearinghouse to say, you know what, we're going to have the most current information available. Here are the sources that we use. If you like that, then go to us. But if you don't, feel free to reach out to these other places. The problem is, what I found, many of those other places, the information is not dynamic. It's not fluid. It's very static. Some of the data could be weeks, months, and in a few cases, even several years old. That doesn't help people at all. So that's, part of the reason this is being created.
Okay.
But you're right.
Great.
Yep.
We had a couple comments come in here. The first one is, this is a great concept. Would also maybe want to think about adding in strengths, preferences, interests, and needs as tabs on the website. Maybe a little more.
As part of their profile, you mean? Is that the question? As part of their profile, to add strengths, preferences? Is that what the person means?
I would assume so. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Great suggestion. I'm making.
And then
Yep,
last comment,
sure.
and I have these archived for you, but the last comment is there should be an option where youth can share info either by typing info, video, recording short videos. So yeah, and she said yes to the first one as in the strengths, preferences, interests, and needs in the profile. So.
Okay. I'm sorry. What was that second question? It has to do with short videos.
There should be an option where youth can share either by typing info or video recording short videos. So, the person with a disability can get in there and share information about, I'm assuming, their needs or the resources that they're aware of, so that people kind of create almost like a community of users where they're not just looking at resources that you guys have put up there, but where people with disabilities can post their own resources.
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. So let me clarify that. Maybe I didn't make that clear when I mentioned about the socialization. There absolutely, this community, and whoever asked that question, a terrific question. This community suffers badly from the lack of socialization and community support relative to sharing between each other. So in other words, there's some higher functioning folks, at least here in Tennessee, that I'm very well aware of, who would like to communicate with others, but there seems to be all these obstacles and roadblocks. And so we're hoping that as we open this up, that they'll be able to use this process and this platform to be able to start their own community type opportunity. Absolutely, great question.
So Chris, those comments that came in were from a woman named Star with Ocala out of Ohio. And she just said she's happy to have me share her contact information with you. So I'll connect.
Yeah, would love to.
They're going to be a resource. Ocala's got a lot of experience in this area, and they would be a great resource for you. So
yeah, absolutely, would be more than happy to share. Happy to talk to her for sure.
So today was a really good example of one of the things that I'm really trying to do with Disability Cocoon is to companies that are creating solutions like this, is to help them navigate our complex market, the disability landscape. How do they fund it? How do they pay for it? I'm not doing that with Chris. This is all Chris and his team. But I want to feature companies like this that are starting, because as we've already seen in the chat here today, we're all starting to share ideas and content, and it's just going to make things much better. So Chris, I really appreciate you jumping on and doing this. even before you were ready to launch, just so that you get a glimpse at what you're putting together. And thank you all for everybody that joined and the comments and the tips for Chris. I'm excited to see what you put together, Chris, and let's stay in touch and keep me informed of your timeline, and maybe we'll figure out another way to let people know about what you're doing.
Well, for sure, Dustin, thank you. And I'm going to definitely have you on the list of people to test this and kind of beat it up and make sure it's right. That testing process will be sometime, I'm sure, later this fall from the folks from ISK Pro, but for sure. And thank you all for participating today. It's a great concept. I love it. I'm very passionate about it, but it takes wonderful people like Dustin and many others, you know, as we all know, to try to bring really cool resources and ideas out there to this community, because it's very badly needed for sure. So thank you all.
Well, thanks again, Chris, and thank you for everyone. Well, it looks like, Chris, you hit the timing right on the head. So,
woo! I got it right. Next time I'll have technology a little bit better for you, and we can have a little more fluid, dynamic conversation. How's that?
Sounds good. I appreciate it, and thank you everybody for joining us. We will check disabilitycocoon.com for future tech huddles. I'm scheduling a bunch of them right now, so it's a little thin, but there'll be more coming here very, very quickly. So thanks again, Chris. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.